episode.
Especially when the camera's wobbling.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Okay.
If you drink too much coffee, you'll be shaking the same amount as the camera. That way it's smooth.
Shoot, I got the Mountain Dew going here. Man, Missouri roads, what are you gonna do? Welcome to the second episode, and we are still on our Rolling Realtor road trip, of course, in the Rolling Realtor studio. And in this road trip, we're going to take you through what's going on in the market right now. It's very timely because we are on a 2-hour road trip. We're headed down to Arkansas to have well, a little bit of business, a little bit of fun. The secret is I may be coming back with a new Jeep. Don't tell anyone. So you know, we're talking about what's going on in the market, and we're giving it to you in kind of small segments. We'll break it up over the next few weeks, and you kind of get an idea of where we're at and how we got here. So, in our last episode, we ended on talking about the mortgage industry because that is a big part of this, and we're kind of talking about the fact that this really all started a long time ago. 17, 18, we started to see inventory draw down, and at the same time, interest rates come down. That is not normal. Usually, inventory is drawing down because interest rates are high, and so there are fewer buyers in the market. That is not what's happening here. And again, this is getting to, you will begin to see why this is not a bubble. This is different. This is not like 08. It does not share the same, markers that the recession did. And that's not why house prices are going up. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that inventory is low. We will get to why. And some of the why of inventory being low is COVID.
Yes.
But it's not all of it. But let's talk about the other factor here that does affect real estate and selling homes and buying homes, and that's the mortgage industry. We got the Wall Street Journal, our favorite go-to source for real estate news, because they do exceptional reporting. This article, when I read it, was extremely interesting to me to see. This article is all about the long-term tracking of mortgage originations. And it's also talking about the fact that a lot of people are refinancing way more than normal. What all this gets to is interest rates had a peak in 1990, 1991, somewhere around 11.5%. This article came out in December, so it's a little bit old because interest rates have come up a little bit since then. But the reason I really like this article, and I feel like it's timely now, is because as interest rates have started to come up, we now see that this article was written at a time in December, just 3 months ago, when they hit a bottom at 2.71%. They didn't get much lower than that before they started creeping up a little bit. But think about that. We dropped in 1990, 11.5%. And from there, it's a steady downward. I mean, it's going down. I mean, the chart, it's a ski slope, right? Not a black. I mean, it's a gentle ski slope. And you just see it hit, 10, 9, 8, 6. For the recession, they were still around 6. During the boom, right after 2000, this was the big boom. This was a long-term period of lots of buyers. But during that period, we had lots of inventory, right? Frankly, a lot of new inventory because it was very cheap for builders to build houses during that period. And they got as low as 5.5. Then the recession hit. The thing is during the recession itself, 08, 09, right to the very beginning of 2010, guess what happened to interest rates? They pretty much stayed the same. They hovered between 5 and 6%. Then the economy starts humming along. We come out of the recession, and they plummet. By 2012, 13, 4% was it. And of course, let's go to 2017. We were hitting 4, 3.5, 4. and now down to as low as 2.7. It's cheap money, and that makes it very easy for people to borrow, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons that I bought a home during this time, sold a home and bought a home, was not only because I get a much lower interest rate, but because I could take a lot of cash out and put it in other places that made more than 2.71% or 2.5% or 3.25%, anything in that range. I could make more, right? So I would rather pull that cash out. I went and bought a new home, and my interest rate, I did a 10-year note, my interest rate's about 2.65%. And I could put a lot of the cash that I had cashed out when I sold into other investments that would make more money. So I did nothing but help myself by getting a very low interest rate and putting cash somewhere else. Because I'd rather borrow than have all that cash sitting in my house when I can borrow for so cheap. Well, I'm not the only one. There's millions of you buyers out there that are doing that, and or it may not be a cash situation for you. It may just be that with lower interest rates, for example, you can borrow more money, but the payment stays within your range. And so you can get a more expensive home because you can borrow more money because more of your money is going for principal, not interest. So if you can borrow at 3%, you're going to be able to afford more than if you want to borrow at 6%, because more money goes to interest. So that is creating a buyer pool that's much larger than we've seen in the past because those interest rates are so low. So fast forward to 2020. Here we are. COVID hits. And now we're in a situation where we still have all these buyers. People still want to buy a home. And in fact, a lot of people want to get out of shared living arrangements. And they see an opportunity to get out and buy a home. Problem is there's no homes.
So basically you're saying that COVID didn't single-handedly do this. We were on a path toward this happening.
We were getting there, right? So 2017, we started seeing inventory draw down and buyers go up. The thing is we still had a lot of inventory out there. Builders were still humming along, building a lot of homes. COVID exacerbated a lot of problems that were just boiling under the surface and probably would have stayed there. And really, for a lot of folks, it would have been better if they had just stayed where they were. They were inconveniences. The thing is when the shutdowns happened with COVID, we couldn't get lumber. We had a lot of workers that left. We had a lot of skilled construction labor that left, was out of the market for whatever reason. And if those guys can't go out and do what they do, build homes, because they can't get lumber, they can't get concrete, they can't get steel, I mean, whatever it is. Could be down to they just couldn't get light fixtures. Now, Ken and I were building houses a year ago in 6 months, and now it's taking a year to build a house. Our last house took 11 months to completion. And it had to do with a lot of things. We had some items that we couldn't get. They just weren't shipping them. Some manufacturers that shut down, right? So now I've got this product that I ordered, and they're saying, nope, it's not going to show up. I have to find a replacement. That's a big deal. So you have this slowdown in new construction. You have a slowdown in people that already own homes, are not listing them and selling them. But you have a speed up, right? So we slowed down in one lane, we sped up in the other with buyers because money stayed so inexpensive. And so, I read through this article about mortgage originations, and some of the things that are fascinating me, for example, is in the first 9 months of 2020, lenders, we did $2.8 trillion worth of mortgages, right? In 2003, which was the beginning of the last big boom. But remember, we had lots of inventory in 03, 04, 05. So the first 3 months of the year last year, 2.8 trillion. In the biggest boom we've ever seen, which was 03 and 04. 03, they did 3.7 trillion. I looked up the number for 2020, the final. So the record was 3.7 trillion. Through September last year, we were at 2.8 trillion. They did $4.2 trillion worth of mortgages in 2021. So they beat it by $500 billion in mortgages with an inventory shortage.
That's pretty strong.
That tells you where we're at. I haven't seen numbers yet for this year, but there's an NAR statistic to throw out there that probably tells you where we are. We actually were down in volume and units sold in this country for the first quarter of 2021, but the average sales price is up $100,000. That's pretty telling, right? So this was a great read. I also found it very interesting that a much higher percentage than normal were 15-year mortgages.
Wow.
I'm not going to try to say what that statistic means, but something I find interesting about that is that I think that people are better educated, and I really hope that, maybe I'll do some more research on this, but I really hope that that means that especially young people that are buying homes are seeing a benefit to borrowing money for a shorter term period of time is a better way to go. I would like to see the U.S. do away with 30-year mortgages, but that's another show. And speaking of another show, we've talked about mortgages and kind of how that's driving the market. So now let's get to the next part of that. And in our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about inventory in general, where it is and why that affects prices so much. So we'll see you next time.